1 John 4:18 says, there is no fear in love, but love drives out fear. Let's proclaim that this morning. Darkness tries to roll over my bones. Sorrow comes to steal the joy I own. Brokenness and pain is all I know. I won't be shaken. I won't be shaken. Let's sing out, come on. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. She no longer has a place to hide. I am not a captive to the light. I'm not afraid to leave my past behind. I won't be shaken. I won't be shaken. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Oh, your love. There's power that can break off every chain. There's power that can empty out a grave. There's resurrection power that can save. There's power in your name. Power in your name. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Oh, your love. stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Oh, it's your love, your Well, good morning to all of you. It's great to be here with you on a beautiful, it feels like spring out there. It's a beautiful, beautiful weekend, and we're glad that you're here with us, worshiping God with us this morning. My name is Will Derryberry. I'm the music guy, the worship guy. I've been here since 2000, geez, what, it's been 2012? I'm the old guy on campus here. It's great to be here with you nonetheless, but I've introduced myself to you. If you are new or newish here to our church, we want to welcome you, and we want to invite you to take some time at some point today. You'll see that beautiful square QR code there, or some cards there on the backs of the chairs there. If you get some time to fill those out, we want to know that you're here. We want to get to know you a little bit better, but also be able to help you get to know us a little bit better too, and that's one of the ways that we can get that going. Also too, prayer. If there's anything that you're going through in life, life gets funny that way where we need someone to walk alongside us. We believe in prayer. We believe that prayer is valuable and it makes a difference. So if you have a prayer request, you can do that on that card as well or through the QR code. But we also have a spot back here in the back of the room. Again, we do believe that prayer makes a difference. It makes us that much more connected to one another and connected to God. And if you have something going on in your life that you want someone to walk alongside you in prayer, we do have a place back there at the end of the service where we would love to be praying for you as well. In addition to that, we've got so many wonderful things that we're about here in our community in being light and love to the world around us. And if you have been here and you're kind of getting to know us a little bit better and you're thinking, man, I would love to be able to serve and be a part of this church in some way. We have so many different ministries where we can be the hands and feet and being light and love to the world around us that we would love to get you plugged into. So that's another spot on that card or through the QR code or just coming up and talking to us, saying, yeah, I think I might be drawn to helping out with kids ministry or on the worship team or in compassion ministry to the community abroad out here. Let us know. We want to get you involved, as well as our finances. The money that we get, that we take in, we want to be a blessing to the world around us. And you guys have been so awesome over the many years that I've been here and doing just that in our community. So let's keep moving forward in that regard as well. So again, let's take a little bit of time. You've been staring at me long enough. Why don't you turn to those around you, make someone feel loved and welcomed and say hello, and then we'll get right back to it.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Heather, and I'm having technical difficulties, so I had to run off the stage. Sorry about that. So we are halfway through our series our church-wide series in Experiencing God. And the last few weeks have been focused on the different ways and means that God uses to speak to us. And hopefully along the way, you've also gleaned some ways that you can help tune yourself to better hear him when he does speak. And we're kind of now where the rubber meets the road in terms of, what do you do when he speaks? How do we respond when God reveals to us what he's doing in the world and invites you to join in? New Testament book, Hebrews chapter 11, is sometimes referred to as the Hall of Faith. And in this chapter, the author lists numerous historical biblical figures and all these amazing miracles and trials and just really cool things that happened to them in their life. But what the author says time and time again in this chapter is by faith, these people were able to accomplish things. By faith, they overcame great trials. And thankfully, the author does define faith in the chapter. He says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And so God, all through the Bible and continuing today, has accomplished his purposes through his people who hope and believe that God is who he says he is, and he can do what he says he can do. They persevered despite their circumstances and remained strong in their faith. And that doesn't mean that they never doubted. The apostles, while out at sea with Jesus, came upon such a frightful storm they thought they were all going to die. Jesus, the God and creator of the universe, was in the boat with them, and they still doubted. So we're in really good company when we doubt. But hopefully, maybe when they look back on their life, they could say, hey, obviously, God was with us. And we hope that through the series, Experiencing God, that you too will be able to not only more clearly look back at times that God was with you in the past, but that we'll all learn to recognize that he's right here every day with us. So let's continue to worship him.
Every time I try to make it on my own, every time I try to stand and start to fall, all those lonely roads that I traveled, there was Jesus. I thought Bill came crashing to the ground. Friends I had were nowhere to be found. Couldn't see it then, but I can see it now. There was Jesus. In the waiting, in the searching, in the healing and the hurting, like a blessing buried in the broken pieces. Every minute, every moment, where I've been and where I'm going, even when I didn't know it, I couldn't see it, there was Jesus. This man needs amazing kind of grace, forgiveness at a price I couldn't pay. I'm not perfect, so I thank God every day. There was Jesus. There was Jesus. In the waiting, in the searching, in the healing and the hurting, like a blessing buried in the broken pieces. Every minute, every moment, where I've been and where I'm going, even when I didn't know it or couldn't see it, there was Jesus on the mountain, in the valley, there was Jesus in the shadows, in the alley, there was Jesus. In the healing and the hurting, like a blessing buried in the broken pieces. Every minute, every moment, where I've been and where I'm going, even when I didn't know it or couldn't see it, there was Jesus. There was Jesus. There was Jesus. There was Jesus. God, we trust you this morning. Lead the way. Can't go back to the beginning. Can't control what tomorrow will bring. But I know here in the middle is the place where you promised to be. Not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want is all you are. Will you meet me here again? As I walk now through the valley, let your love rise above every fear. Like the sun shaping the shadow, in my weakness your glory appears. I'm not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want is all you are. Will you meet me here again? Not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want is all you are. Will you meet me here again? Here not for a minute was I forsaken. The Lord is in this place. The Lord is in this place. Come, Holy Spirit, dry bones awaken. The Lord is in this place. The Lord is in this place. Not for a minute was I forsaken. The Lord is in this place. The Lord is in this place. Come, Holy Spirit, dry bones awaken. The Lord is in this place. The Lord is in this place. Let's give God our heart, the weight and the worth that belongs to Him this morning. eternity in your hands. You spoke the earth into motion, my soul now to stand. You stood before my failure, carried the cross for my shame. My sin weighed upon your shoulder, my soul now to stand. What can I do but offer this heart, oh God, completely to you? So I walk upon salvation, Spirit alive in me, this life to declare your promise, my soul now to sing. So what can I say? What can I do but offer this heart, oh God, completely to you? What can I say? What can I do but offer this heart, oh God, completely to you? Oh, my heart is yours. My heart is yours. I belong to you. Let's sing this out. So I stand with arms high and heart abandoned in awe of the one who gave it all. I'll stand, my soul, Lord, to you surrendered all. I am is yours. I'll stand with arms high and heart abandoned in awe of the one who gave it all. I'll stand, my soul, Lord, to you surrendered all. I am is yours. I'll stand with arms high and heart abandoned in awe of the one who gave it all. I'll stand, my soul, Lord, to you surrendered all. I am is yours. I'll stand with arms high and heart abandoned in awe of the one who gave it all. I'll stand, my soul, Lord, to you surrendered all. I am is yours.
14 years ago, everything was going good on the surface. I'd been in pastoral ministry for 2 years at this point. I'd left a lucrative career in real estate. As I like to say, I went from private planes to church vans, and it was awesome. The youth ministry was growing, not just in numbers, but in spiritual depth. People were making decisions to follow Jesus. Kids were realizing they had God-given gifts and were stepping into those places of faith to love and serve and lead others. And my wife, she was living her dream, living what she was put on this earth to do. She was teaching high school history, and everything was awesome on the surface. But inside, there were questions. Some were new questions. Many of them were questions that I'd asked before but had answered, but now they're coming back up. And now there's these questions, and they're becoming doubts. And I figure, like, I can do... My approach to him was kind of like when you have a basketball in the swimming pool and you go into with these questions, if I can just push it all the way down, it'll just stay there forever, and then all of a sudden, it pops up and hits you in the face. And the questions became doubts. And if I was honest, I realized here I am 2 years into leaving a career to do this thing, building my whole life around Jesus. I'm pastoring, and I don't think I believe in God anymore. Now, I do a lot of things wrong, but there's 3 things I say always gonna try to do the best of these things. Number 1 is I'm always gonna listen. Number 2 is I'm always gonna tell the truth. And number 3 is I'm always gonna be me. And there's pros and cons to that, I get it. So here I am trying to figure out, how do I be honest and authentic at youth group when I don't believe in God and I've got to close the night in prayer? Now, I got lucky that week. Like, someone else was giving the talk to the students because I don't know how I would have been able to preach. But at that end, I got to go and pray to a God that I'm not sure I believe in. You been there? Like, maybe you made a wrong career choice. What I want to tell you, friends, is questions and doubts are part of all of our lives. And they're caused by different things. For some people, it's intellectual questions. For others, it's life experiences. Some of us have questions, and they're great questions. Like, how could a good and loving God allow bad things to happen to good people? Well, maybe they made a decision. Yeah, but what if they didn't make a decision? What if they're a newborn baby and there's a hurricane and boom? How could a good, loving God allow that to happen? Maybe your question looks something like this. I'm not sure if I could believe in a God who would send people to hell. If God loves everybody, why would he have some people be tortured and suffer the consequences? If he loved everyone, wouldn't he just... Or maybe it's not as philosophical as that. Maybe it's more practical, where you're like, well, I was praying, I did all the right things, and now all of a sudden I feel like even though I've done all the right things, God has abandoned me. I pray, and it's like all my prayers hit the ceiling, and there's nothing coming back. And I don't know, it's worse, that I'm not sure if God's not there or if God doesn't care. And I'm wrestling with what's worse. Well, I can't doubt God because I'm a person of faith. I can't do that. So maybe I just doubt myself instead. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm not praying right. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe it's me, right? Because I'm sure everybody else doesn't ask these questions. And today what I want to tell you is doubt is part of the process. I actually want to argue that doubt is a good thing. But let me be clear. Doubt is not the opposite of faith. Skepticism is the opposite of faith. What's the difference? Doubt says, I don't know, I will name it, I'll be honest with it, and I will take a step of exploration around these doubts. Skepticism says this. Skepticism says, I don't know, I'm not 100% sure, therefore I'm out. Skepticism is kind of like having an issue with commitment. I love you, I'm 99% sure I want to spend the rest of my life with you, but if I'm not 100% sure, I'm just not going to put a ring on that thing. And they're like, hey, you don't have a problem with me, you got a problem with commitment. Because no one's ever 100% sure. Don't get me wrong, your partner was 100% sure, but the rest of us weren't. Is it possible that these doubts can actually help us tear down things about God that are not true and build up stronger faith? You see, that's the story we're going to look at today. I believe many of you have these questions. You've been given brains, use them. And some of you have answered them. Some of you are still wrestling. Some of you are like, I'm okay not knowing. But wherever you are, I want you to see how important doubt is to it. And if it's not you today, I bet you there's someone you could send this talk to, or maybe one day down the road, you'll end up like me and being like, oh, I've got new questions and doubts that I've never had before. Because what we're gonna see today is a story from 2,000 years ago. And I want you to be comforted that you're not the only one who asked those questions. 2,000 years ago, people asked those questions. And now, the same God from 2,000 years ago, we'll see if this is how he dealt with people then, this is probably how he deals with people now. And this is the invitation to explore and discover Jesus in the midst of your doubt. If you have your Bibles, go to Mark chapter 9. Mark is one of four gospels, four stories about Jesus' life. Mark is almost certainly not an eyewitness of Jesus, but he does write one of four gospels, four stories about Jesus. Most scholars believe that Mark was written first, and then Matthew and Luke took some of Mark's writing, some of their own unique experiences and research, and then some other sources, and kind of put together their understanding, their gospel, their story about Jesus. And in Mark chapter 9, just to give you this little concept, Jesus has just taken his three closest followers, Peter, James, and John, taken them up to a mountaintop. They have this amazing spiritual high, feeling close to God. Peter's like, let's build a house and live here forever. And Jesus is like, we don't really do spiritual highs. Like, well, let me say it this way. We don't do spiritual highs all the time because there's real people with real struggles down the road, and they need to experience the life and love, that thing that you experience on the mountaintop. There's folks down in the valleys who need that. And so even though I know you want to be in a spiritual mountaintop your whole life, that's not why I did it for you. I gave you a mountaintop experience so you could take that faith down into the valley because there's someone else who needs the faith that you just experienced. And in that, we get to Mark chapter 9, verse 14. When they came, again, Jesus and his three amigos, when they came to the other disciples, they saw a large crowd around them and the teachers of the law arguing with them. Now, this isn't just arguing for the sake of arguing. This isn't social media arguing where you're not actually listening to each other, just trying to zing each other. This is like they're actually debating in such a way that they're trying to learn and understand. As soon as the people saw Jesus, they were overwhelmed with wonder and ran to greet him. What are you arguing about? Jesus asked. Isn't that awesome? The all-knowing God of the universe. Hey, what's going on, guys? As if he doesn't know. Just real quick, like if mom walks into the room and says to my two boys, hey boys, what are you doing? She already knows the answer. How? I don't know why, but I'm pretty sure, again, I have a degree in Bible, so I'm pretty sure this is true, that as she's growing a baby inside of her as this miracle of life, that she's also growing extra ears and extra eyes because she knows everything. I don't know how they do it. Jesus knows the answer, but he just wants to have a conversation. Some of you need to get that, friends. Sometimes the experiences that you have in life, God's like, hey, can we talk about it? Because if it's important to you, it's important to me. And these guys are all asking their questions, but let's be honest, they don't want to ask their question to the religious leader. Like, here's the thing, they'll say to their friends, I don't really know. But no one wants to walk up to their pastor after church and be like, yep, I don't believe in God. Okay. No one wants to go up to the rabbi and say, hey, everyone else says you're awesome. We're not sure you are who you say you are. We think you might be crazy. And Jesus knows that. So what does he do? Lightning and thunder. Nah. He's just like, what's up? This is awkward. A man in the crowd answered, teacher, I brought you my son who is possessed by a spirit, who's been robbed him of speech. Whenever the spirit seizes him, it throws him to the ground. He foams at the mouth, gnashes his teeth, and becomes rigid. I asked all your disciples to drive them out, but they could not. Real quick, some of you, as we talk about demons, like, that's weird. I don't know if I believe in God, let alone spirits that are there to ruin people's lives. Some of you may say, oh my gosh, this isn't spiritual, this is mental health. He probably just needs a diagnosis and a prescription. And let me just be clear. Sometimes I think in a modern Western world, we like to compartmentalize. There's the spiritual here, there's the physical here. And what I think the ancient world that Jesus lived in realized they were much more closely aligned. And so, friends, you don't have to be anti-science, or you don't have to think, oh my gosh, this is just a spiritual thing and there's nothing else there. You can see the world's coming together. And Jesus says this, verse 19. You unbelieving generation, how long shall I put up with you? How long shall I stay with you? What? That's not the Jesus I thought. That sounds like Old Testament Jesus, who's like angry and wants to smite people and like wipe people off the face of the earth. He's like, I'm angry. Isn't New Testament Jesus supposed to be Mr. Rogers? Welcome to my neighborhood, put on a cardigan and say, won't you be my neighbor? Well, that's not very neighborly. Jesus sounds salty. So what does salty Jesus do to those people who don't believe? Bring the boy to me. Friends, let me be clear. Some of you hear that tone, how long must I be with you? And you hear, oh, he must be upset. You've got that critical voice inside of you. And when you hear it in the scripture, like, no, that's it. But is it possible that Jesus is saying, how long will it take you to learn? How long will you wrestle? Because I'm here for it. Because Jesus doesn't say, how long have you doubted? How long have you had questions? How long have you had, oh, it's been too long, you're out, I'm moving to the next person. He says, how long? Let's talk. Bring the boy to me. Bring the boy to me. So they brought the boy to him. When the spirits saw Jesus, immediately they threw the boy into convulsions. He fell to the ground and rolled around, foaming at the mouth. Jesus asked the father, how long has he been this way? Since childhood. The father answered. The spirit has thrown him into fire and even into water to kill him. If you can do anything, take pity and help us. And Jesus is like, if I can do anything, shoot. Like, if I can just speak a word and speak the world into creation, like, if I could do that. Like, if I could die and come back and conquer death, like, if I could do that. Like, yo, this is just like a low-key, no big deal miracle. I've done some big dog miracles. This is just kind of, normal run of the mill. If I can do this, everything is possible for the one who believes. Immediately, the boy's father exclaimed, I do believe. Help my unbelief. I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief. I love his honesty here because he brings his doubt and he brings his faith. And it shows us again, doubt is not the opposite of faith. Skepticism is the opposite of faith. But when he is honest about his struggles, when he is honest and brings it to Jesus, that's what sets him up for transformation. If he just said, of course I believe. Now what? He's like, actually, God, I got questions. God, I don't understand how in the Old Testament you seem this way, in the New Testament you seem that way. God, I don't understand how there's these people in my life. There's these Christians I meet who are total jerks. And there's these other people who follow other religions and they seem nicer and kinder. And these folks are in and those folks are out. God, that doesn't make sense. God, I don't understand how you could say that you got a good plan for me, but I don't understand why you gave me the diagnosis. I don't know why you did that to my marriage or let that happen in my marriage. And I don't know why my family turned out the way they did. God, I'm kind of angry about that. Friends, that's where the good stuff happens. Where you're honest enough to say, I've got intellectual, emotional, and life experience that brings me to a place that says, I'm not sure. Because here's the deal, friends. God is big enough for whatever question you throw at him. God is truth embodied. He's not afraid of questions. He's like, this is my shot. You're like, God, I'm angry about the state of the world right now. He's like, I am too. Let's talk about that. You said, God, I don't understand why. And he'll say, yeah, but now that you're honest, we can talk about it. You see, doubt is good. Let me give you an example of this. Let me give you a metaphor of this. About 8 years ago, my wife and I bought our first house. Now, I don't know what it was like for you. Even with a career in real estate, buying our first house was scary. What if we're buying one that's defective and we sneeze and the whole thing falls down? We get there and we love it, but we had this dream of taking out some of the walls and making an open floor plan. We like the openness because we love to host, ministry teams at our house. We love hosting neighbors here. We just want our kids to be able to run around and see them wherever they are because they've got my DNA and they need to be watched at all times. And so we said, let's go to an open floor plan. And it was awesome. And we come in, how's the work going? And you're like, it doesn't look like you've done anything. It looks like you just ripped the cabinets off, which is good because the cabinets were ugly. That's good. And then you keep watching them, they're ripping the walls off. You're like, oh, this doesn't look good. And then there's all these beams that look like they're holding up the roof, and then they start knocking those out. I'm like, are we sure this is a good idea? This seems like a whole lot worse and not very much better. And then they get to these other beams that look really strong, and they take those down. I'm like, this doesn't seem like a good idea. Are we sure we can do this? Can we go back? Can we go get the ugly cabinets again? No, it's too late for that. I'm like, that's cool. I'm fine. I'm not freaking out at all. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And when someone tells you they're fine more than once, they're not. And towards the end of this, the contractor brings us in and says, hey, Kyle, Kelly, you have a decision to make. And I'm like, okay. He says, in the middle of this huge open great room, there's these two posts, these two pillars. They're about 8 to 12 inches away from each other. The engineers say that you need both pillars, but I think you only need one. What do you want to do? And I'm like, you're a general contractor. I have a degree in Bible. I have a degree in youth ministry. I literally have a 4-year degree in how to play games with kids, and you want me to figure this out? You're a general contractor. Well, I'm supposed to get a specific contractor? What do I need here, man? First service thought that was funny. Y'all didn't. The specific contractor joke was good. I'm just going to stay with it. But you have your doubts, and doubts are okay. What was I talking about? And so he says, hey, here's this thing. You've got to make a choice. You can leave them both up, or you can just leave the one. It's up to you. Look at my wife. Hey, what do you think? She said, I got a degree in history. I'm like, I got a degree in Bible. What are we going to do? I'm like, oh. Hey, Larry the contractor, what do you think? He's like, this is my opinion, but it's up to you. And I'm like, all right, that's your way of saying you don't want to be liable because you're not sure. Oh. I said, all right, let's just stick with the one, not the two. Are you sure? Nope. But I did it anyway. I remember the first time bringing my kids and is the roof going to fall down on my kids? No, it didn't. Every time I go up on the roof and I hear a creak, I'm like, oh no, that's it. I get what I deserve. You see, let me just be clear. This is what faith and doubt looks like. I had enough faith to take out the post. Just to clarify, this is a metaphor. I'm not saying that I believe that God's supernaturally sending angels to keep my roof up. No. He gave me a brain, do some engineering. It's all good. So I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is there was this faith that I said, I think this one will be good. I'm scared because we've gotten rid of some other things that I used to depend on, and I can't depend on those things anymore. And so every time there's a creak, I wonder, how sure are you? Sure enough to remove some stuff. Sure enough to let my kids there. Sure enough to walk on the roof. But are you 100% sure? Nope. Kyle, what's the point? Two things. First of all, even today, Kyle, they say, hey, are you sure you believe in God? I'm like, 97%. I'm like, who? He's a pastor. You're supposed to be 110%. I'm like, I'm not. 97%. On a good day, 99. Bad day, 95. But that's just kind of my range. But enough to trust God, not only with this life, but the life to come. 97% is enough for me to say, hey, I'm going to build my whole life around your life, death, and resurrection. I've got enough faith to say, if I'm wrong, I'm the biggest fool in the world. I got that much faith. But I'm not certain. But there's another piece to it. I want to talk about the walls that came down. I want to talk about the pillars that got knocked down. You see, in faith, I think there's things that we think are essential that are not. I'm totally sure that this is how God works. And if I take that out of the equation, the whole thing falls down. And this process of deconstructing and demolitioning things is actually part of the spiritual process. Let me say it this way. I have gone through that in my heart of having these walls removed and being afraid that my whole faith system is going to come crashing down. But what has happened is I don't believe as much as I used to, but I'm more sure about the things that I'm sure about. And some of you have ideas that need to be deconstructed. And I love you, and you need to know that we have ideas that are just harmful. We have ideas like everything happens for a reason, which is true, but not helpful. And also what we mean by it sometimes is everything that happens is part of God's plan. He wanted it to happen. And I want to be like, no, 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 no. There's evil things that happen every day, and that is not part of God's heart, part of God's plan, part of God's will. It didn't happen because God wanted it to happen. It happened because you and I are imperfect people who hurt each other and do evil things. It's part of who we are. But that everything happens for a reason, maybe that needs to be deconstructed and rebuilt as everything that happens, God can transform. Every pain I've experienced, he can turn into purpose. Every wound I experience can be for someone else's healing. Everything in the world that doesn't seem right, instead of it being able to say there is no God, all the evils in the world says, I need a God more than ever. Maybe, just maybe, your idea needs to be deconstructed. Because A, it's not true, or B, it's not essential. I talked to someone in our congregation who was asking, hey, how come we feed folks on Friday nights? Doesn't the Bible say, hey, you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, you teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime? And I said, I agree, and I think that's actually, there's a lot of truth to that, but let's just be clear, that's not in the Bible. Like, are you sure? I'm like, pretty sure. I'm like, I read the book, in high school, I didn't read the book, I faked my way through it. This is the one book I've actually read. Literally the one and only book I've actually read. Like everything else, unless it's one of my kids' bedtime books, let's be honest, I even skip my kids' bedtime books because it's too long for my ADD. It's true. So maybe there's some truth to that, but maybe that idea needs to be taken down because I think it's true about God and it's not. You see, friends, in these pillars that get left, I don't believe as many things about the Bible as I used to, but I have more trust in the Bible than I've ever had before. Why? Because for 2,000 years, we've experienced Christians who believe and do the wrong things. But for 2,000 years, they all keep coming back to this book, and this book seems to be transformative and seems to be the best guide to truth that we have. So you can knock everything down, but that pillar of Scripture stays for me. Oh, don't get me wrong, I've tried to knock it down, but it doesn't work. It's strong enough for any question I've ever thrown at it. So what else is essential for you? What is essential to me, I ask the question, do I really believe that the God of the universe becomes a human being and that human being dies on the cross and his death on the cross gives me new life? And let me be honest, does it have to be a historical, actual risen from the dead, or can it just be like a fairy tale or a mythology? And I'm like, I've asked that question, but for me, the historical resurrection of Jesus is a pillar, and my faith doesn't work without it, because if he didn't defeat death in his resurrection, I have no hope for my eternity. So I've got these pillars. I don't have as many. I used to have a lot of non-negotiables. That list has gotten very small. And when I deconstructed those things I thought were essential, it was scary. I felt like a heretic. I felt unspiritual. I felt unsafe. But here's what happens. Those things are just a facade that makes us feel safe. It gives us categories that we need to feel safe in our own home. But really what happens is when those things get deconstructed, you get to say, this is what is and isn't essential. This is who Jesus is. I can disagree on all sorts of other things, but these are my pillars. Doubt allows you to deconstruct. But let me be clear, friends, when I use the word deconstruction, skepticism will just be like, I don't know, therefore it's not true. Oh, I'm not 100% sure, so I'm just gonna, look at all the stuff I've deconstructed, but you know what? I'm not gonna rebuild the whole thing. Sometimes our faith, when we deconstruct but don't reconstruct, it looks like a construction project that went halfway through, and then they saw it all come down, like, oh, I don't like this, doesn't make me feel comfortable, so I'm just gonna peace out, and hopefully it fixes itself. That's not this guy. I believe, help my unbelief. This is what honesty does. It gives us an opportunity to grow because God wants to talk about it, and maybe some of our ideas of God need to change. Last bit about that. In the chapter before, Peter has some ideas about God that have to change. Right after this, Jesus is going to tell his disciples, hey, by the way, I'm going to be killed. I'm not going to be that military Messiah you thought I was going to be. Some things had to change. And these real life experiences are what catalyze it. Because real life experience leads to real life questions that becomes real life faith. That was good. First service didn't get that one. You tweet that. Verse 25. How does Jesus respond to the one who has belief and unbelief? Jesus responds. When Jesus saw that a crowd was running to the scene, he rebuked the impure spirit. He said, "You deaf and mute spirit," he said, "I command you to come out of him and never enter him again." The spirit shrieked, convulsed in him violently, and the boy looked so much like a corpse that many said, "He's dead." But Jesus took him by the hand, lifted him to his feet, and he stood up. After Jesus had gone indoors, his disciples asked him privately, "Hey, why couldn't we drive it out?" Pause. What does Jesus say? He starts the question, "Hey, what are you guys all talking about?" He says, "Oh, you have a bunch of doubt? Hey, bring the boy to me. Hey, you think that boy's dead? I'm actually going to not only heal him, but I'm going to stand with him every single bit of this journey. I'm going to hold his hand. I'm going to help him stand up." And then what happens? The disciples afterwards like, "Jesus, you're amazing. It's so great." Nope. What do they say? "Why couldn't we drive it out?" Friends, let's just be clear. Sometimes we need to be honest with our doubts. Some of us are like, "Man, I 100% believe in Jesus, but I just don't know if I believe it myself. I thought I was doing the right thing and it's not working. I cast out other demons." The disciples are saying, "I cast out other demons. I healed other folks, but this one didn't work. I start to doubt myself. What's wrong?" But what do? They bring it to Jesus. This is the model of a disciple, is someone who fails and then says, "I'm going to bring my failure to Jesus because he can fix it." And how does Jesus fix it? This kind can only come out by prayer. And what else? You ever had this answer in the Bible? It's so simple. You're like, "That's cheap. I need more." I don't know if any of you else kind of grew up going to Sunday school and you're like, "Hey, what's the answer to the question?" Like, the question's always the answer is always Jesus. And if it's not Jesus, it's pray or read your Bible. You're like, come on. You're like, the odds are you've got to get one of them. It's always the answer. Why is it that way? Vince Lombardi said it this way. He says, "We've overcomplicated football." And it really comes back to the simple things of blocking and tackling. I'm not a professional football coach, but I can say it as a professional Christian. Hey, we've overcomplicated a lot of things. It comes down to blocking and tackling, praying and trusting. Well, were they not praying? Weren't they praying, "God, cast the spirit out"? Did they stop praying all of a sudden? What was going on here? No. When you think that, "Oh my gosh, if I pray, this thing happens," you don't understand what prayer is. If you think, if I pray X, Y, and Z, then 1, 2, and 3 things happens, you're not praying, it's a formula. It's a recipe, it's a spell, it's witchcraft. Abracadabra, boom, miracle. No, that's not prayer. Prayer is what? Prayer is a real, honest conversation. And real, honest conversations create real transformation. Let me explain. I was sitting with one of you this week, and they said, "Hey, some of my friends are having marital problems. Man, if you could just tell couples one thing, what would you tell them?" I'd be like, "You need Jesus and a therapist." And they wouldn't listen, and so I'd say this instead. I said, "Here's the one thing I wish all couples could get. I wish I could help them understand that all couples have conflict. But the thing that I want to help them change is, what does that conflict lead to? Because conflict will either make things better or worse. And you tell me which one of those happening, and I'll tell you the type of help you need." What do I mean? Some conflict leads to worse. It leads to one person getting upset and yelling, "Ah!" Ooh. Sometimes conflict leads to, "Yes, I'm sorry, I won't do it again." It's submissive, it's passive. Well, if we just stop fighting, we'll be better, right? No, because you sweep it under the rug and trip over it later. Sometimes conflict leads to negative outcomes, and then you stay in the cycle. You have more and more negative conflict, and it just continues to get worse. Versus couples who have healthy conflict. They come and say, "Hey, when you did this, I felt this way." And the person's like, "Wait," and they go back and forth, and at the end, they come out and say, "Oh, I think I understand my partner better. I think my partner understands me better. And we're clearer about what needs to change in the future. Oh, I understand that they weren't trying to hurt me. They just blank. I realized they were saying this, but what they really wanted was this. And now after going through healthy conflict, we're actually better at loving each other." It's the same thing with prayer. When you come to prayer and say, God, help me, and things don't go the way you want it to, sometimes it feels like, oh my gosh, it's making it worse. I'm gonna stop praying. Why? Because he doesn't answer me. Why would I keep wasting my breath? Or it's, no, I must not be praying right, because that person on Instagram, every time they pray, they get it. And they Instagram about it and remind me how spiritual they are. I must be messed up. Versus I wrestled with God. I was honest. And now here I am 14 years later, able to be honest and be like, yeah, there's been seasons where I don't believe in Jesus. And some of you are like, that freaks me out. Okay. That's why I'm gonna tell you to trust Jesus instead of trust me. What does Jesus say here? Anything is possible for him who believes. Let's be honest. Who's the only one in this passage who fully believes? The man? Nope. The kid who's been possessed by a demon his whole life? Nope. The disciples? Definitely not. Who's the one and only person who believes in this passage? It's Jesus. I don't believe in my belief in Jesus. I believe in Jesus' belief in me. What's the difference? One says that I can hold up the roof with my own intellect, and the other one says my life would fall apart without him. And when you deconstruct, that's what it allows you to do. It lets you see your limits so you can see what God gives you. So let me wrap up with this story. Back when I was living in Davis, we took our kids to a birthday party, and I'm an introvert. I know you don't believe it. I just made a deal with God that 3 hours a week I'd pretend to like people, and the rest of it I wanted to be alone. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. So I'm at this birthday party, and I'm going because I want to be a good dad and a good husband, and I just want to sit in the corner with my phone and don't talk to anybody. And then this woman comes up, she says, oh my gosh, I've been going to your church. I've been hearing about the thing. It's so good. Awesome. I'll see you at church tomorrow. Just talk to me now. And no, that's not really true. I really do love people. Just not as much as I love being alone. So do I call you or not call you? Call me, but never mind. Okay, sounds actually on track. It's like, hey, my husband used to be a Jesus follower and isn't, and now he's an attorney and an atheist. He'd love to talk to you. I said, that sounds like fun. Nope. So here I am. I'm literally got cake in my hand, and here comes this, hey, I have a law degree. I have a master's degree and a master's degree in the theology and philosophy of religion, and I don't believe in God anymore. Why do you believe in God? And I said, chocolate? Oh, cake? And I said, like, hey, I'm not doing this just to, like, be like on Facebook where you just say things back and forth, but no one's really listening to each other. Like that's just, like, that's just not fun. I mean, I don't want to do this as a show, as a game, as a who's the smartest person in the room kind of thing. And in Davis, it was all about that. Who's the smartest person in the room? Like, I don't need to do that anymore. No, I really want to know. I said, all right, 3 things. Number 1 is creation. I don't know how there's a world without a creator. What about the Big Bang? Totally fine. I'm totally fine with Big Bang. I'm totally fine with God creating in 7 days. Those are not pillars for me anymore. Either way is fine. But if there was a Big Bang, there had to be a Big Banger. Right? Well, no, it's stardust that boom. Yeah, okay. I totally think the science says it's very, very likely that there was stardust and it went boom. But how'd the stardust get there? I don't know. And I'm the one with faith. I said, I believe in science, but also believe that science has its own limits. And that's why I believe a supernatural worldview makes more sense. So creation, but 2 more. Number 1 is everyone who followed Jesus was a knucklehead. Peter denied Jesus 3 times because he was afraid of a little teenage girl. No disrespect to teenage girls. Y'all are fierce and ferocious. You kind of are. I'm still scared. I am. I get all insecure, so I'm sorry. But Peter is insecure here and says, I don't know him 3 times. Jesus died, is resurrected again, and after Jesus meets the resurrected Jesus, after Peter meets the resurrected Jesus, he's willing to stand in front of magistrates, leaders, centurion armies, and Caesars and say, I believe in Jesus. What happened? I think that only happens, and the same thing happens to every single other person that witnessed the experience of Jesus. They went from, I'm not really sure, to, I'm so sure I will die for it. And if they were just trying to make it up, I don't think they're willing to die for it. So that's number 2. And number 3 is this. My life before Jesus, I was a rebel without a cause. I was overwhelmed by anger and rebellion. And when I met the love of God and was overwhelmed by his power that transformed me, I went from a rebel without a cause to having peace and purpose in my heart. And for that to happen to a 12, 13, 14-year-old boy, the thing that makes the most sense to me is that my life was transformed by Jesus. And now, after 30 years of following him, there's a whole lot more evidence that says he is real than he's not. There's more miracles than I can say, oh, that was just coincidence. At some point, you're like, well, there can be enough coincidence. Like, what's the odds of those things, of those being a coincidence over and over? 99.9% chance. So you're going to believe in coincidence, not God? Again, I'm not 100% sure, but you don't have to be either. So after that conversation, I said, hey, let me know if you ever want to get together and talk again. Never heard from him again. That's how I knew in moments I didn't believe and doubt was okay. But that's where I learned the difference between doubt and skepticism. Doubt says, I don't know, but I'll be honest, I'll explore, I'll take the next step. And skepticism says, I don't know, so I'm just gonna pull the ripcord and be done. So, what does Jesus say in the text that I believe he says to you today? What does he say to the Father? He says, bring him to me. Hey, you're not fully sure that I can do a miracle? That's fine, bring him to me. Hey, you're here and you've got questions that you haven't answered. Those questions, bring them to me. Some of you, I got hurt and pain and frustration from things God didn't do. And honestly, some of the things that God's people did are so messed up that those hurts still stick with me today. What do I do with that? Jesus says, bring them to me. Well, I got questions, bring them. I got doubts, bring them. But bring them. Whatever it is, he just says, bring it to me. Because that is where doubt can be transformed into faith. When you are honest, you use the brain that God has given you, and you say, even when I'm not 100% sure, I will take the next step. In my spiritual life, am I sure that was the right decision not to have those two posts? Nope. But I'm sure enough to risk my life on it. Now, you don't have to be there yet, but the more you bring them to Jesus, the more your faith will grow. And one day you'll be right where I am that says, I am confident, not certain, but confidence that the one who created me and loved me and died for me is trustworthy, and he believes in me. Bring him to Jesus. Let's pray. As we talk about faith, I want to talk to folks today who have never put their faith in Jesus. Maybe they've let the questions be big and they've been open-minded, but they've never opened their heart to love and trust him. Maybe you've said to yourself, I never could because I wasn't 100% sure. But today I want to ask you to not take a leap of faith, but to take a step of faith and say, I want to trust and follow Jesus. Maybe your heart's beating fast. Maybe it's the first moment that you feel confident. Maybe this is the first time where you say, no, it makes sense. I want to trust and follow Jesus, not only in this life, but in the life to come. And if that's you this morning, will you just go ahead and just raise your hand so I can pray for you? I see you, yes. Yes, right here. Yes, I love that. Anybody else? Yes, right there. I see you. I love you. Friends, you are not a mistake, and you are not defined by your mistakes, but you are defined by a God who loves you. I want to say yet thank you for taking that step to put your trust in him. During this next song or after the service, there's folks at a table right behind who'd love to pray with you. Whatever's going on in your heart, just know you don't got to do it alone. You have people to listen and pray with you. I want to encourage you to do that now or after this next song. But to everyone, I say this. Whatever you got, bring it to him. Bring him your doubt, your questions. Bring him your worship and your celebration. Bring him your steps of faith. Bring him your reservation. Whatever it has, bring it to him, because I know you can trust him with it. In Jesus' name, all God's people said, amen. Let's worship together.
when your cares have buried you, and there's nothing left for you to do. Lay it all down. Lay it all down at the feet of Jesus. At the feet of Jesus. Carried on, but your heart was tired. Fear the worst and felt the fire. Lay it all down. Lay it all down. Filled with all those anxious thoughts. All your doubts became your God. Lay it all down. Lay it all down at the feet of Jesus. At the feet of Jesus. Lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down. Lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down. Lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down at the feet of Jesus. At the feet of Jesus. When we've given up on better days, there are memories we can't erase. Lay it all down. Lay it all down. When we've come to fear what we can't explain, there's nothing here that can ease the pain. Lay it all down. Just lay it all down at the feet of Jesus. At the feet of Jesus. Lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down. Lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down. Lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down at the feet of Jesus. At the feet of Jesus. Lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down. Lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down. Lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down at the feet of Jesus. At the feet of Jesus. Lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down. Lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down. Lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down, lay it all down at the feet of Jesus. Here at the feet of Jesus.
You may be seated. A friend recently sent me an article about holding hands. I'm like, dude, I don't like you, but not like that. And I read it, and it talked about the power of holding hands. It said that if your heart is dysregulated, maybe you're anxious, you can't do it, holding someone's hand can actually help regulate your heart rate. Or if you are holding hands with someone who's in pain, the parts of their brain that fire in pain actually will be firing in yours as well. And I say that to say this, that we're created by a God who created us for connection. And so I want to share with you some opportunities for you to go ahead and get connected. But to help me do that, I want you to invite Michelle and Franquan up here. Give them some big love. Give them some big love. Here we go. So, secret, Michelle is speaking at the next women's event, and Franquan is speaking at the next men's event. Anybody else excited for that? I'm pretty pumped. But let me just ask this question. Why? Why have you chosen to lead in these areas, and why have these connection groups been so important for you? Michelle, ladies first.
Hi, thank you. And I'm just getting my voice back after having a cold, so bear with me there.